finding online was a bunch of experts saying, like, toxic shock syndrome is real and it can happen, but it's extremely rare. It can happen if there is already a certain type of bacteria in your vaginal canal. And then if you have a tampon in for a long period of time and like the right conditions are in place, then it can cause an overgrowth of that bacteria. And that can lead to toxic shock syndrome. So it is a real thing, but the likelihood that it is going to happen to you is pretty low. And what most of them were saying is, like, if you start feeling horrible and you're like vomiting and have a fever and a rash and pain, like, go to the doctor and get it figured out. It could be toxic shock syndrome, but it's unlikely that you're going to just like keel over and die because you had a tampon in. That's not how that's going to work. So that is a scary thing, and I think it is a good argument for changing your tampon relatively frequently.
Another thing that I kind of read about a little bit when doing research for this episode was about menstruation and work attendance and school attendance, and how some people can't afford to buy tampons, and so they don't go to school, or they are unable to attend work. And there was a statistic that was kind of shocking. The availability of menstrual care materials alone has been found to reduce absenteeism from work by 21%.
Whoa, 21%?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And, well, also increasing school participation and improving learning outcomes for people in school.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, as someone who has been in school while having a period a lot in my life, like, worrying about whether you might be leaking through your pants while you're sitting in class, or having cramps, or just general discomfort, or the just like fatigue that comes over you when you're having an intense period. Like, none of this is very conducive to learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Particularly worrying if you are leaking blood onto your seat. Like, and then if you think, like, if you get that like twinge where like, oh God, am I leaking? Is there a leak? And then you can't think about anything else. And you end up like scooting around in your seat, like trying to see if there's blood on your chair. Like, it's the worst. And even if you're not leaking, once you get that idea into your head, you can't get it out. It's the only thing that you can think about for the duration of whatever class you're in. Because
Right.
it's considered like the worst thing that could possibly happen to you, you know, to be outed as having your period, which is ridiculous unto itself.
Yeah, I remember in like middle school, a bunch of teenage boys sent a history teacher home in tears because she had had her period in class, and they like, this is like what, let's see, 7th grade.
Oh my God.
And they like mocked her mercilessly, and a teacher, a grown adult who was teaching, had her period in class, and teenage boys sent her home in tears.
Oh my God, that's brutal.
Yeah.
Whew. I feel so very, very bad for that woman. So I was just, like, that makes me think about, 7th grade. God, how old are you in 7th grade? Like,
oh yeah, on average. Okay. Yeah, I think I was like, 12 or 13. I think I was 13.
And I think I was too. Yeah, I think that sounds right. So, like, by the age of 12 or 13, those boys knew enough about how shameful that was to make a teacher go home in tears. Mm-hmm. Like, this is so ingrained into our culture that kids are able to mock a teacher that badly. Like, about something that's completely normal and natural and fine. Like, that is so upsetting. And it makes me also think about like all of the horrible, stupid myths about like the toxicity of period blood, and like all of the things that have been said over the years to like make women feel shame and fear about their periods. Like, even though we no longer believe that like if a menstruating person touches a flower that the flower will die, like the guess
Oh,
you could even
yeah.
say like the toxicity of the feelings that we have about periods continues to be just as powerful.
Yeah. Let's see. A woman can kill a man by having sex with him while she's on her period, especially if it coincides with an eclipse.
An eclipse. It's like, okay, all right. I like that. I like that. Makes me feel very powerful.
If a woman passes between two men, if it is at the beginning of her period, she will kill one of them.
Oh, but just the beginning.
Yeah.
Weird. Okay. Mm-hmm.
All spells of magicians can be neutralized with period blood.
Oh, that could come in handy. Okay. Wait, so like, how does that work? Like, do you throw the blood at the magician, or like, what do you do with it? I need more information.
I don't know. I'm not somebody who would like know that.
Well, I like the idea of throwing the blood at the magician, so I'm gonna go with that.
Okay, so I did find some myths around periods around the world that I kind of wanted to talk about, and so I'm just going to read through them really quick. In the US and the UK, you're clumsy when you're on your period. Tampons will break your hymen and make you impure.
Yeah, you're not a virgin anymore if you use a tampon. That one I heard growing up and makes no sense at
No.
all.
That you can't take a bath on your period.
Because sharks or something?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that one never made sense either.
It's like dangerous living in grizzly country here.
Good point. Those bears come running.
Yeah, that was another one. Don't perm your hair until after you've had your first period.
That is something that a mom definitely just made up in the 80s. When her kid was like, Mom, I need a perm to look like Madonna.
If you touch any vegetable before or during the pickling process, they would not pickle or go bad.
That's an old one. I did some research on that specifically.
In Nepal, you can't be in homes or have contact with anyone on your period.
Oh, geez. What do you do?
No clue.
Huh.
In Israel, you get slapped in the face when you get your first period, so you have beautiful red cheeks all of your life.
What? That's magical. Okay.
In Colombia, you can't drink cold beverages because they'll give you cramps. I am, I'm game for like all of society being like, how can we make cramps easier for everyone?
Yeah, I'm totally into that idea.
Also, you can't wash or cut your hair while you're on your period. I've actually heard that for some indigenous cultures here in America as well. Poland, having sex can kill your partner.
Wow.
Romania, you can't touch flowers because they'll die quicker.
Yes, that's probably related to the one that I was studying.
Yeah. Malaysia, you need to wash your pads before throwing them out, otherwise ghosts will come and haunt you.
Oh boy. Whoa. That sounds terrible.
India, you can't enter a kitchen or cook food. There's a whole bunch of food ones in here. I'm just gonna say that there's a bunch of food ones and skip those ones because they're all pretty much the same. You can't enter a place of worship. A bunch of hair ones. There's so many hair ones.
Oh, that's really interesting. I wonder why.
You should avoid dancing to very active rhythms in order to take care of your uterus in Mexico.
Okay. And we just slide out, I guess?
Dominican Republic, don't paint your nails, wash your hair, or drink lemonade.
Oh, that's very specific. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. In Brazil, don't walk barefoot or you might get cramps.
Okay. Again, cramp reduction. I'm cool with that.
In Argentina, you can't make whipped cream or it'll curdle.
Oh.
Let's see, there's a few more on here. Philippines, when you get your first period, you need to wash your face with the first menstrual blood to have clear skin.
Oh. Huh. I wonder if there's any basis in truth for that. There's a whole lot of nutrients in period blood.
What if you had, Filipino Israeli parents? Do they, make you wash your face with your period blood and then slap you?
Slap it off your face.
In Italy, dough won't rise while you're on your period.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a culture that I read somewhere that said you're not supposed to hold babies while you're on your period. And
Jeez, you can't do anything.
I have some news for those people. Like, moms have periods and babies. Like, what are they supposed to do for an entire week out of every single month? Just not pick up their baby?
You're supposed to have a nanny, clearly.
Yeah.
And a wet nurse. Possibly the same person,
right.
possibly not.
Right, but I mean, it's ridiculous. A whole bunch of can't touch plants, can't cook, can't swim or go to the beach. You can't make mayonnaise or it'll curdle.
Yeah.
You can't make sushi because it will have an imbalance in taste.
I've actually heard that that is still relatively widespread in Japan. That like the number of female sushi chefs is like minuscule because people still, whether they believe it or not, it's at least a convenient way to keep women out of the industry.
And that's what it comes down to, is a lot of like period myths, even if they are not originally like created for that reason, actively keep women out of all kinds of different industries.
Yeah, and it's interesting that there's so many particularly about food. Because historically speaking, in most cultures, women are the primary preparers of food.
Right.
So if you're telling women that they can't like be in the kitchen or touch any food, like what that is extremely alienating.
Yeah, you can't like take baths, you can't wash, you can't take too hot of showers, you can't wash your hair or cut your hair or curl your hair.
Right.
Like you can't just do basic self-care while you're on your period. You can't cook for your family. You can't pick up your baby.
Right. And it's not as if like in all of these situations, there's like since you can't do this, let's let you do something really nice instead, or like pay you extra to stay home, or like that's not suggested in any of this. It's like you just can't do anything and you have to be away from everybody because you're gross. And I'm sure that there's a lot of situations in which that's not the goal necessarily, but it does seem to be the effect in a lot of ways. So I was reading about I don't know where this guy is from. I will put a link to where I found this information in the show notes, but I don't have the full story here. But some person named Bella Schick, who was a, quote, popular physician, conceived the term menotoxin in 1920. He ran experiments in which menstruating and non-menstruating women handled flowers. Schick concluded that menstruating women excreted toxic substances from their skin that caused flowers to wilt. The menotoxins, according to Schick, also stopped the growth of yeast and prevented dough from rising. Schick postulated that the menotoxins might seep into a menstruating woman's sweat as well, and others corroborated his conclusion, concluding that toxins from menstruating women could wither plants and spoil beer, wine, and pickles. Some studies even suggested that menstrual blood increases the risk of infection because bacteria grow well in blood, which is rich in iron, protein, and sugars. Moreover, during menstruation, there is less mucus around the cervix, making it easier for bacteria to enter. None of this is true. But apparently in the 1920s, people decided to study these things. And what it sounds like, based on what you just said, is that these scientists went into these experiments with all of these like ideas and then just confirmed their biases by reading whatever they wanted in the outcomes.
Yeah.
So like we have really old beliefs that you can't touch pickles, you can't go near beer, none of these things will work if you're near them while you're menstruating. And then science, early Western science was like, oh yeah, that's totally true. And so people have believed it, even though like all of this has been disproven at this point. Those beliefs are so old and so entrenched that getting away from them is a tall order.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to talk a little bit about the cognitive dissonance that I have about periods and PMS and hormonal changes, because it's a topic that I still grapple with. So when I was growing up, my mother told me that PMS was a myth because she didn't experience it. And I believed that for a long time. I just thought that people were making it up for whatever reason. I don't know.